Today we're talking with Adam Reback, partner at Optima Partners, and Joe Cassano, a Withum audit partner in our financial services practice. We're going to discuss the new marketing rules and its impact on the alternative investment industry. Joe and Adam, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
So let's get started. Adam, what are some of the areas managers are most affected by in relation to the new marketing rule?
So I think the new marketing rule really posed challenges in two particular areas for managers. The first is the way that they display performance, whether that be gross versus net. That's been a particular challenge for a lot of managers that break out certain portfolio positions and display performance for those positions, particularly on the private equity side. Calculating out the actual net performance versus gross performance, and also having to display net performance prominently next to any gross performance that they've used historically has been a big undertaking. The other area that I think is of concern to a lot of managers and in the industry in general is the substantiation clauses within the new rule, whereby every statement that a manager makes in their marketing materials needs to have substantial backup that can be produced upon demand by the SEC.
Yeah, we're actually seeing managers do a deeper dive into the actual definition of the word advertisement and whether a certain material used in marketing, such as DDQs, annual meetings, specific investor requests, actually qualify as advertisement. And it may be easier just to apply the new marketing rules to everything. This way you're covered, there's no scrutiny, and then you can repurpose those materials going forward since they're more general.
And what are you seeing regulators look for as far as examinations and whether there's been any enforcement actions in this area yet?
So it's interesting because there's been a ton of speculation about what we'd see from regulators and exams. And I think it's taken a while to actually filter through into ongoing and new exams that have opened. Initially we saw a sweep around the new marketing rule, and that was earlier this year. And out of that sweep, there was one enforcement action that involved 9 different managers and centered around the way that they were displaying hypothetical performance. One of the provisions of the old rule that's carried into the new rule and has become more in the spotlight through the new rule is the applicability of hypothetical performance, right? Hypothetical performance needs to be applicable to the actual products that you're marketing. It can't be hypothetical performance that isn't very close to what you're out there marketing. So we saw an enforcement action in this area, which entailed that issue and also some other issues in relation to this. We did see a sweep go around the industry. There were a number of questions in a number of different areas, mainly focusing on, performance calculations, substantiation, and this hypothetical performance issue. And also included in that sweep were some comments related to actual documentation around the policies and procedures that have been implemented for the new marketing rule by managers. But in existing examinations where we hadn't historically seen a huge focus on some of these areas, we've started to see additional questions added to ongoing exams and a specific set of questions showing up in new exams that have opened. And they generally focus around substantiation. So what we've seen is the exam teams, in the course of their examination, review marketing materials, review any documentation that they believe constitutes an advertisement or a marketing piece, and then pick out statements from those documents and ask for the advisor to substantiate them. So when they're doing that, they're picking out a statement. So for instance, this company is best in class, right? Which is something that, generally you wouldn't want that language in your marketing book. You would advise someone to tone it down a little bit. But they'll point to that and they'll say, substantiate that. Where did that come from? And what they're expecting to see is a file that holds some sort of documentation where you could point to either a news article or a research report or something that substantiates that. Or similarly, an example that I can use for an exam for one of our clients was the manager made a representation about the demographic of their investor base, right? So they said, we deal with family offices, institutional investors, high net worth individuals, pension funds, blah, blah, blah. and they gave a list of the types of investors that they cater to. The SEC came back and said, we want to see proof of this, so substantiate this. And they actually wanted them to provide a list of all their investors and how they classify them to tick and tie to each of those categories in their marketing book. These are the types of requests that we've never seen before from the SEC. And so, they are taking a pretty hardline approach on substantiation. And I think that's an area where a lot of managers can get tripped up. And it now is a direct rule violation. So no longer is it just a comment where they'll say, we don't like this language. You should change this language. It's actually a direct rule violation and leads into a potential deficiency and potentially an enforcement action.
Seems like a full-time job to have someone, it's living and breathing, have someone update this on a real-time basis. Every time you update one thing, you have to have the documentation behind it.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And look, we do a lot of marketing review, and these are, I would say, the substantiation comments are probably the most frequent right now.
Well, thank you both for your time today and all of this valuable insight into these new rules, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues to evolve.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thanks, Colleen.